Hello and welcome into the Not All There podcast. I am your host, Chad, and this is part 2 of my conversation with my dear friend, Rich. We kind of get down to the nuts and bolts of what the end of our drinking looked like, what it felt like. It was not fun. It was painful. It was pretty ugly. And it feels good to talk about it, honestly. And I think that getting it out there and making it available for people to listen to, it will help them too. If I had heard something similar to this while I was at the end of my drinking, it certainly would have eased the pain. You know, I felt very alone. I was full of so much shame and disappointment and anger, and I didn't like myself. I looked in the mirror each day and I didn't like what was staring back at me. And, you know, no one wants to be there. So how about we all work together, get this word out there, you know, share this with people that you love, who you think might benefit from it, or maybe you know somebody or they know somebody who might benefit from it. Let's get it out there. I'm going to keep this thing up. And as I do more of these, I'll become a little bit better at guiding these conversations. But for now, what the hell? Let's have some fun with it, okay? And here we go. Here is part 2 of my conversation with Rich, aptly named Cocaine and Lies. Enjoy.
Oh my God.
Oh man. So do you remember your last day drinking?
I remember waking up.
Okay. And you were married. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tracy and I married.
Kid was on the way.
We were married, so Tracy was 4 months pregnant. We got married in February of that year. This is in October of 2010. And yeah, I remember waking up. I remember the end of the drinking. I hadn't blacked out. I was in like a manic state where I was starting to kill myself, and I had, which had happened numerous times before.
So like what, drinking to death or just like giving up everything?
Yeah, not drinking to death, like something more immediate.
Oh yeah, sure.
And so anyway, Tracy was very worried. She called my parents, and they my dad came to the city to get me, and Tracy, I think one of my best friends might have been there too, because Tracy called him because I was so off the rails. And I remember like kind of passing out like on the car ride, and then like passing out on the couch in my parents' living room. And then I remember waking up and my mom was on the couch with me, and she was super worried. Because it wasn't just that it was the drinking for sure, but it was also she was concerned about my bipolar disorder and like my volatility, and so she was really worried. And I don't remember exactly what she said. She's like, "Honey, you can't drink." And I remember looking at her and saying, "I think I might be an alcoholic." And that was the first time it probably crossed my mind before, but that was the first time I ever
uttered it.
Yeah. And when I heard myself say it, I was like, oh no. Because I knew enough to know, like, once you say that, no one's going to be cool with you drinking around them again.
Yeah. Right. Like,
so
the gig is up, man.
Yeah. So it felt kind of like burning a bridge, but I mean, it was very, it was like burned in my memory. It was very important.
Yeah. Did you feel relief?
No, maybe a little bit, but I immediately went to like, where is this going?
Yeah.
Because I knew.
Well, you were like also manic too, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I was less manic after I got super annihilated and then woke up, at that point I was just like totally spent. But I was very depressed. And I remember I was at the State's Attorney's Office at the time. I was on this really crazy assignment called Felony Review, which is like, you're going out to crime scenes, interviewing suspects and witnesses, and the hours are 6 to 6, and you'll have 3 days on, 3 days off. And then for a month you'll be on days. And then for another month you'll be on nights. And I knew that like they quote unquote, they were going to try and put me in like some kind of
like
fucking rehab
padded
program,
room or something.
right?
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and like, I can't leave work, you know, like, cause back then the state attorney's office wasn't like super enlightened about, you know, treatment and stuff like that. It was basically like, you know, you suit up and show up. And so, but they ended up, you know, ended up going through a lawyer's assistance program. And then I got placed into this outpatient rehab program in Chicago where I could go on my off days. So for 3 days or 3 nights, I wouldn't be there, but then I'd be there on the other 3. And so I was there for like 6.5 weeks instead of, you know, 20 days or whatever. And I just did it to get them off my back. Like I realized that like I had made them feel miserable. They be my family. And I felt like I owed it to them to do what they thought was necessary.
Right. It wasn't about you. It was just like, fuck, fine, get off my ass.
Yeah. And to try and make them feel better. You know? Like, but I was like, this shit isn't for me. You know, and I remember like going through, you know, they were like really leaning on people to go to AA. And I was like, I remember I went to one meeting down there at the Queso Club. And, you know, I was like, the people are super nice. But like, I never want to come back here again. You know? And I was like, you know, looking at the 12 steps on the wall, and you're like, man, there's a lot of God talk.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yes.
And all that. And so, you know, like that was it. And I finished the rehab program, continued to work and I was a high achiever throughout all of my career. But for the next year and a half, I did nothing with my
just white knuckle.
Yeah. And it was like, I almost feel bad saying like I have 13 years because it's like 13 years since my last drink, but like there was a year and a half where it was grim. And it basically like I looked around the world and I was like, man, this is like all salad, no steak. And like before it was like, at least drinking was like a little piece for me.
Yeah.
But like, this is nothing for me. So if like, and if things are just going to get progressively worse, then like, why stick around? So I was in like a dark place, and a friend called and asked me, so he was having a lot of problems and, you know, he was drinking too much or whatever. And he knew that I dealt with it. And he was wondering what he should do. And for whatever reason, I was like, I don't need it. But some people think AA is really helpful, and I'm happy to go with you to a meeting if you want. And he's like, that would be great. And then he's like, so like, where should I go? He's like, I went to one meeting like a couple weeks ago, but it was really weird. And I was like, well, where was it? And he was like, it was in Rogers Park, and it was for.
Oh, was it the one down at the field house?
Maybe, but it was an LGBTQ meeting.
Oh,
that was also Hasidic. So he's like, it was just hard. He's having a hard time for some reason identifying, you know, being like a North Shore white kid. So anyway, so we go to this meeting, you know, in a basement, and I looked around. I'm like, man, this is cool. But for a year, you know, I just was going for Ross, my friend. And then he left. He moved to California.
Oh.
And I kept showing up.
Yeah.
Just because like I realized like I like these people.
Yeah.
Like they're cool.
They are cool. They're funny and very welcoming. Like that's
yes.
I didn't it wasn't a year and a half, but I white knuckled it for like 9 months, but then I relapsed, and Nancy had like some, I don't know, like she had some dental work done, and there was just a big fat bottle of Vicodin like in the medicine cabinet. And it stared back at me like every day.
Yeah.
And finally I devised a plan, and of course it failed miserably, and she put me on the spot, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Pretty par for the course. But then, yeah, I talked to a friend of hers, actually. She ran into at the Y. Anyway, I talked to her, and she took me to a meeting, and I found out that it was it's about the people more than it is like the God aspect of it. Like, you know, there's different ways to get sober, but I think the through line with it all is the group aspect of it, you know, the fellowship part of it. And that I think is it's great, but it's also like hard for people too, because it's really difficult to open up to somebody, you know?
For sure.
Yeah. To go in front of a group of strangers. I mean, actually, I guess that's never really been a problem for me, but I think it's a problem for a lot of people. So, yeah, my last day of drinking was a classic. When we moved out here from Oregon in 2012, it was the summer of 2012, and I had been on a good run for a good many years, and it was not going well, and I don't know what I did exactly. I think it involved cocaine and lies. No hookers, but cocaine and lies.
Then you're doing fine.
Yeah, I was doing good.
If you left the hookers out, you're
fine.
fine.
I'm fine, man. It was just blow and March Madness, I think. But so now, I was like, I got to take a break. Nancy was really mad at me, which she had every right to be, because I'm just lying and lying and lying. And so I took this hiatus for like, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. And we moved out here during that time. And there's a discussion. I was like, okay, well, your birthday's coming up, and you maybe give it a go back on your birthday. And so that night on my birthday, I had, I don't know, a couple beers, but man, within a week, it was fucking on, and it got real bad real fast. And my last day, I was in a closet in a building that had like a slop sink in it. And I was just in there, like, just pounding brandy, just like brandy. That's where I was at. Like,
that's low.
Yeah. It was the cheap brandy too. I fucking E&J or something like that.
No snifter for you?
No. Just like pull huge fucking horn right off the bottle. Anyway, got home and, hanging out in the living room with the family, and Graham is just like, I don't even think he's 6 months old yet. And I had this like yellow like bike courier's backpack that I used to carry around everywhere. And that's where I used to stash my booze. And it was in the other room somewhere. And Miles was off wandering around. And he came back into the living room like, Daddy. And he's holding this like half empty, sweaty bottle of white wine. And Nancy's like, what's that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then the tailspin, and then the white knuckling. And then, yeah, the turmoil part of it was what really got me. I don't know, because of the bipolar, did you experience that aspect of it, or was it just like such a mania? Because, a lot of people that we talk to, in our groups, like, talk about how at the end, like, it was really more painful than anything, just because of the torment and the turmoil and the guilt and shame and all of that came along with it. And that the only thing that would make that go away or ease it was booze. And was it that way for you?
I think, partly, I think it was like exploding buildings, but it wasn't like I was sitting
Fight Club
inside
style.
the burning building being like, I hope I get out of here. Like, that's not how it was. It's just like, it was just totally crazy. The worst turmoil for me was after I stopped drinking and before I started like working a program, because at that point I had nothing. Like, I had all the same anxieties and fears and in mental health issues, but I had none of the best coping mechanism I had ever found to deal with it. And so it was just terrible. I really felt lost. And throughout that period of time, even, when I started going to meetings initially with my good friend, I was still very hung up on the God stuff.
Yeah.
And it was only later did it occur to me that it was a little rich for me to be that focused on ontology and philosophy and deciding whether or not I could believe in something. Like, I never spent 1% of that amount of time deciding whether or not I should have a drink. Never. It was just like, yeah, of course. I'm willing,
make it a double.
I'm willing to accept all manner of bullshit.
Yeah.
So like, so just to get to that point is just be like, was amazing to me. And like, I don't know, like you were talking earlier about like miracles and whether they exist or don't exist. I really think like this, it's kind of like God also is a very definitional thing. Like,
yes,
what do you like? Words are not going to characterize, if God exists, words are not going to be able to adequately communicate to me like exactly what that is, and since that will never happen, it is pointless for me to get all bent out of shape that it hasn't happened yet. I think like this is the same thing with miracles. Like if you would have told me in 2010, when I was at the end of my run, that I would have told you about some grand plans for like how my life would shake out.
Yeah.
None of the stuff that has happened in my life that I'm most grateful for did I even conceive of back then.
Right.
And much of that would not be possible. Like Tommy would be my only child with Tracy. I wouldn't have the other two because she wouldn't have stayed with me. My work, who knows what else, but I mean, like
you could always go back to bartending.
Yes, always. They'll always take you back. And so, like those things, when I look back retrospectively, those are, I think, as far as my definition of miracle is concerned, is a miracle. Like me, coming on with you, and like talking about like anxiety and depression, and pissing my pants in like a quasi public setting, that is a miracle, because like 12 13 14 years ago, that's not something I would have been willing to do. I would have been still intent and bent on my whole aim, which at that point in time was making you believe that I was the person you wanted your children to grow up to be. That was like, I was dead set on it. And I thought that was like totally achievable and worth doing. And now, like when I still get bent out of shape, it's because I'm trying to do that again.
Yeah.
Like, so like this week when I was worried about my reputation and like all that stuff, that is shit I cannot control. And yet, if I do not address that core truth, it will burn me. Like I will spend entire days, weeks spinning on like some fucking bullshit, or like resenting some person who has crossed me. And it's like, whatever, man. Like, it's a lot easier to be like, I'm just going to try and do the next right thing. And that person who crossed me, they're doing the best they can with whatever they have.
Right.
And like, God, give them some grace, because you
Seriously.
too are a fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned, the story about me, like getting in a screaming match in the middle of the street with this dude because he made a pretty egregious, error in driving and almost took me and my dog out. But, fuck, the guy was probably late for work. He probably got up late, trying to squeeze every last minute he could out of it. And was like, I got to get around this car. And then, there's just some white-haired white guy, like giving him the bird and telling him to fuck off, because what, what was so special about me in that moment? It was like, did I die? No. Did he scare the shit out of me? Yeah, sure he did. But you know what? I'm alive. And I chewed on that one for a while. And later that day, I just kind of, I guess I did get quiet that day, in a good way. And I was like, shit, man, I gotta like apologize to that guy. Cause I was way, way out of line for the way I handled it. That's the difficult part, I think, of being a human, and maybe even our society, is that we have to present ourselves as having our shit together when no one does. No one fucking does. And like you said, giving that person that you feel slighted you just the slightest bit of grace, because you don't know what's going on in their life. You have no clue. And I guess you can't go around or doing it anymore, but sort of like, well, I yelled at you, I'm sorry, let's hug it out and move along.
Like, I'm not confrontational, and like I avoid conflict. And so when things like that come up, I don't usually have a reaction, like this work situation with this person who
this fucking asshole.
Did what she did. So I just in my mind, it becomes a giant case, and like I'm going to
Yeah.
prosecute this person in
Yeah.
my mind, and then
Yeah.
like we'll see what the jury does. Who knows? But like it goes,
They're gonna fucking love
it goes
me.
on. But like when you were talking about that guy that was crossing the street, like there's like zero doubt in my mind that you thought about that much more than he did after.
Absolutely.
You know? And so that's kind of like an example of like the kind of the prison that we have for ourselves of like, and it's not like that prison, you get the keys to it when you get sober and then you're free. No, that's like, I think when people are talking about daily sobriety, they're talking about like, yeah, don't drink today, but also you have the opportunity to not live like that anymore. I don't have to be a prisoner of other people or other people's preconceptions. And I also don't have to have this inflated view of myself that like, you should wish to be me, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like
absolutely.
Total lack of humility.
Yeah.
And I always, like, we grew up and it was like, you know, I grew up in Catholic school and all that. It was preached to us to be humble, you know, like be humble. And what I always took that to mean was like, make sure you appear humble. And it's different.
Yeah.
There's
the appearance of being humble is entirely different from
and
the actual act of being humble.
And I did that at work forever. Yeah. I did it in friend groups. And so people, and people do like, hey, that guy's really humble. He's really, but I'm not like, that's not what I am. You have to I have to strive for humility, like really fundamentally understanding, believing that I am not the center of the universe. And that even though it sounds so stupid, that is not easy for me. Even though I have not had a drink in 13 years, it's very difficult. You know?
That's why I love you. You're my kind of prick.
Little self-absorbed.
Aren't we all? Oh man. Well, dude, this has been a ton of fun. I'm really happy we got to do this. It means a lot that you came to help me out with this.
Yeah, I was very flattered that you asked.
You were the only one that came to my mind. It was like, I'm going to do this, and Rich is going to be the guy that's going to help me get it started.
Yeah, I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and you know, I love you, but
I love you too.
But I think like, you know, I know that I'm your first guest. And so I know this is going to be your worst show. So you're welcome for providing the floor.
Such a dick. All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Take it easy. All right. We made it. Whew. Boy, that was a lot of fun, a lot of work. And I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these. And up next week, I'm sitting down and having a great conversation with my friend Eric. So I hope you come back. Eric is a wonderful person, and he's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of great things to say. I think you're going to enjoy this one. All right. Take care of yourselves. Be kind and loving to everybody, and we'll see you next week.